This was a great fight between Jaime Munguia and Sergey Derevyanchenko. Non-stop action literally from the opening bell. Both guys were landing big power shots. Both guys were hurt. Derevyanchenko was dropped in the final round. I'll come on to that a little bit later. But going into this fight, I really wasn't expecting that much. Derevyanchenko, at the age of 37, I thought had seen better days, lost several fights, although many of those losses were contentious decisions. Nevertheless, I thought that even that, losing a lot of these close decisions, would maybe wear Derevyanchenko down psychologically and make him bitter towards boxing, and maybe he'd just start turning up without the same type of vigor and ambition he had earlier on in his career. So, as I say, I wasn't really expecting much from this fight. Don't get it twisted, I didn't think Munguia was going to blow him out early or anything like that, but I did think it would be a relatively decisive win for Munguia. But it was anything but, and you could definitely make a case for Derevyanchenko not only winning this fight, but winning it by a couple rounds. Now, in the early rounds, Derevyanchenko's superior speed, his head movement, and his work rate was causing Munguia all sorts of problems. We've seen Munguia in tough fights before. I remember he fought some Japanese guy. That Japanese guy gave Munguia all types of problems. Dennis Hogan gave Munguia plenty of problems as well. Many people think that Dennis Hogan was hard done by in that fight. So we've seen Munguia have difficulties in several fights in the past. But for my money, nobody gave him as much trouble as Derevyanchenko did here. I mean, this guy was all over him like white on rice, hitting him with clean shots, and he hurt Munguia in this fight. This is the first time that I've seen Munguia clearly hurt. Yeah, he's been buzzed a little bit here and there, but in this fight, he was properly hurt. Like his legs started going and all that kind of thing. And Jaime Munguia really is value for money. If you want to go see a Mexican fighter and get to see a good spectacle, a good scrap, go and watch a Jaime Munguia fight. And I'm talking about of the active Mexicans right now. Jaime Munguia's got to be up there with one of the best when it comes to value for money. With all that being said, if you're just looking at it from a purely boxing perspective, if you're looking at Munguia's development, the fact that he still has this extremely porous defense is disturbing. Here against Derevyanchenko, he was getting lit up like a Christmas tree. He was hurting Derevyanchenko, yes he was, but he was also getting hurt himself. And for my money, Derevyanchenko was landing more clean shots than Munguia was. And these were big, big shots that were spinning Munguia's head around like The Exorcist. Spray flying everywhere. And then Munguia wobbling back to the ropes, you know, that kind of thing. One of the mistakes that Munguia was making in this fight is he was exchanging left hooks with the much shorter, faster fighter who throws shorter punches. And that's what kept getting him hurt in the fight, was when he was trying to hook with the hooker. Obviously, Munguia's a hooker himself, but again, the shorter guy who's faster than you, whose hooks are tighter than yours, who also moves his head before and after he punches, yeah, you don't want to be hooking with that guy. It was a chaotic affair all the way through. They did start to slow down in the later rounds, and that actually favored Munguia. He was able to see the openings a bit better, place his shots better, and in the final round, he landed a beautiful body shot. I mean, couldn't have landed it in a sweeter spot, and you could tell with the way he threw it, the way he whipped it in, there was plenty of power on it, landed clean on the knuckles, right on the sweet spot on the floating rib, and down went Derevyanchenko. He did manage to get to his feet, but he was just in survival mode from there on in, and you can't blame him because he must have been in terrible distress. But again, he's yet another guy who shows Ryan Garcia how it's done. You get hit with a shot there, yeah, it hurts. But if you can get up, as Ryan Garcia showed he could because he got up at 10, if you can get up, there are fighters like Derevyanchenko who will get up. And this was the 12th round. He must have been desperately tired by that point, but he still got up to face the music. So props to Derevyanchenko showing that kind of heart. But he lost the round big. It wasn't just the knockdown. It was a one-sided round even without that knockdown. So it went to the scorecards. You'd expect it to be biased in favor of Munguia, and it was. But had that knockdown not occurred and Derevyanchenko won the final round, would the fight have been a draw? Would it have been a majority decision for Munguia? I forget now with regards to the maths of it. But Derevyanchenko's a guy who's been hard done by on several occasions, most notably in the Gennady Golovkin fight, because many people believe he won that fight. And also against Adames, that was a real close one. Many people thought he should have got the nod there too. He was soundly and legitimately beaten, however, by Jamal Charlo. And when you compare Charlo's performance against Derevyanchenko to Munguia's performance against Derevyanchenko, I know styles make fights, I always say that, but Charlo and Munguia have similar dimensions, and their styles are somewhat similar. Charlo's much better defensively, but in terms of being an aggressive boxer puncher, there's some similarity there. And against the same opponent, I mean, Charlo did so much better. Does that show how much better Charlo is than Munguia? Because you've had Oscar De La Hoya, Munguia's promoter, talking about putting Munguia in there against Charlo in his next fight. Now, he was saying that prior to this Derevyanchenko matchup. Does he still feel that way afterwards? I mean, De La Hoya was on his feet in the 12th round, screaming at Munguia, imploring him to finish the fight off, to go back to the body. Sergio Mora also pointed out that Munguia was headhunting after he dropped Derevyanchenko in that final round, rather than going back down to the body. Bernard Hopkins, obviously, who's Oscar De La Hoya's business partner, was on his feet as well, imploring Munguia, go back to the body, go back to the body. Munguia wouldn't go back to the body. You know, no disrespect to Munguia, because he's obviously a tough kid. He's got a lot of heart. He doesn't appear to be the sharpest tool in the box. I'm talking with regards to his boxing IQ, his ring IQ. Doesn't seem that high. He doesn't seem that sharp. Seems a bit slow in terms of the way his mind works and reacts to things. If your reaction times are not as quick as somebody else, what are you going to do about that? The only thing I might suggest is that Munguia focuses a lot more on sprint training rather than doing long distance runs, because, you know, there are different approaches to training. Some people like to do a lot of long distance runs. Other people don't do any long distance runs at all. They just like to do hill sprints and things like that. I'm of the latter school, and it all comes down to what works for the individual, because I can't train exactly like somebody else and get the same results as them, and vice versa. They might try and train the same way that I train, and they don't get the results that I get. Our bodies are different. But if he wants to try something that might actually help his mental sharpness, sprint training. If he does a lot of sprint training, focuses a lot on that, I'm not saying it'll work, but what have you got to lose? For me, when I do sprint training on a regular basis, I end up thinking sharper, reacting sharper, not just in athletic situations, but even in conversations, in just day-to-day decision making. I just feel more clear-headed and sharp when I'm doing a lot of sprint training, as opposed to long drawn-out endurance type training. I don't get that same mental clarity and sharpness. Sprint training benefits me way more physically and mentally. Because if Munguia stays as he is right now, surely he's food for Jamal Charlo, and certainly food for Canelo. Maybe even food for the likes of Caleb Plant, David Benavidez. I think Munguia and his people have been targeting Gennady Golovkin, but I'm not sure what Golovkin's doing now. Is he retiring? I mean, he seems indecisive. That would really be the fight to go for. Does Golovkin still have a belt, or has he relinquished all his belts now? If he still has one belt left, that's probably the fight for Munguia to go for. Because as limited as Munguia is, he should have enough to get past Triple G at this stage. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you watched this fight, did you enjoy it? I can't imagine why you wouldn't have. I'm sure a lot of you feel sorry for Derevyanchenko. Many of you will feel as though he won this fight. And let me know what you think about Munguia's prospects for the future. Is there anyone with a belt at 160 or 168 that Munguia could actually beat in your estimation? Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. And before I go, don't forget to subscribe to my new live stream channel here on YouTube. There's a link in the description box below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.